It's really wonderful to have you and have all of us back again this Sunday to continue where we stopped last Sunday. Last Sunday was really an interesting one, and it took us into territories that we didn't know we'll get into. And it was really as a result of that we decided to expand on this discussion concerning religion, science, and technology. And in today's engagement and show, we want to look at the interplay between science, religion, and technology, and how they can help us to build a better society and promote ethical development. As always on our program, we have guys who have always kept us engaged, kept us on our toes with the way and manner they break down some of these questions. And it's always a gladdening moment to be with us on this show. So while we wait for them to come on, I urge all of our members, to come round and let us, go on this journey of self-discovery. We are here to expound the bounds of knowledge. This year, and then I'm bringing him on so that while he's here, we can kick off. Already have a notification from Mike that he will be with us in a moment, and Samuel Nadi will also be joining us as soon as possible. So while we wait for guys, I'm calling upon, I'm inviting you to come over for this interaction session, and I urge you to chime in with your questions. Give us questions, comments, and the things that will keep us, keep everybody engaged. It's an interactive session. It's an interactive podcast. Nobody knows it all, and we expect as you come on that you come in with your questions. You come in with contributions, suggestions, comments that will continue to push back on the boundaries of ignorance and bring light into ordinarily where there was darkness. I don't know, network is playing up a little bit, but very soon our men will be here, and then we get this going. Hello.
Yeah, the team.
Yes, you're welcome.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah. How has it been? How was your Sunday? Or how is your Sunday?
My brother, it's all going well. We're still on it, isn't it?
Okay.
Today I'll be having a little distractions from behind. My little man, you can see him jumping up and down.
Yeah, it's expected. Where you have a house full of little kids,
soldiers,
it's to be expected. Yeah. It's to be expected. Hello, Mike.
It get worse whenever you see me talking.
Yeah.
He gets agitated.
He wants to join in. He wants to join in. He wants to have his say.
I know.
I know. He like his father, yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as serious discussion going on,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I tell you, because when I first met Sam, we
Yeah.
used to have some, and he was working with one of his partners in crime at the time. I forget, Kingsley. Let me tell you, Sundo, you know, it was fire. It was fire down there, bro. Sam get so calm and relaxed now. Like no, he can't. And this guy's like get mature and is patient and he letting everybody have a say. But before, bro, listen, it's a fire there, bro.
Once kids come in, you assume a level of maturity that you didn't know you have.
Man.
Yeah, it comes up.
I respect that. Yo,
Yeah.
Vince, can we see each other, or are we still in
It's
darkness as usual?
still, we are still in the dark.
Okay, okay.
me,
As usual.
I'm still in the dark. I can't see anybody, but
Okay.
I've tried whatever I could to see if
Yeah,
this
Oh,
can
yeah.
be
I
uh,
better
just
than
uh,
just
what.
should we do one thing? Should we, Mike, you can see both of us, can't you?
yeah,
Can
I
you?
can see. Yeah, I can see everybody. Yeah.
What about Mike? What about Mike himself hosting hosting it for today?
But
Let's
we could
let.
maybe we could organize that for ahead of time so
Okay,
that
Yeah,
because
okay.
so,
it
yeah.
would
Okay.
take too
That,
much time to start.
that's rather that's rather impromptu now.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I
Next
think
time.
Aman Besala is waiting for your
yeah. I've
um
not
to
seen him.
join in
I've
as
not
well.
seen him. He's only asking me to send a link, but he was in here a while ago, so I don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
why he's asking for a link.
Oh yes, I think sometimes sometimes it's a bit pain in the ass to get
Yeah,
that joining link as well.
yeah. I'm already trying to bring him in now. So
Okay, okay.
while I've already sent him an invite, and I think he's coming. He'll be added in a minute. He'll
All right, sir.
come on in a minute. Yeah.
Mm.
So, but while we're waiting for him to come on, I think we take off without wasting much time, because our viewers will be waiting and getting to know what we have for them today. And like
Mm.
the topic is saying, how can science, technology, and religion collaborate to promote social progress and ethical development? Mr. Nadi, what do you make of this topic, taking into consideration some of the operational words there? For me, science, technology, religion, ethical development. So, what do you make of that? I want to kick off with you.
All right, sir. All right, sir. Yeah, Mr. T, I think it was actually inevitable from the lengthy discussion we had from last week that it is fair actually for us to continue again on the same discussion this weekend.
Yeah,
It's quite an important topic as well, especially for us that from a community that seems to be at the receiving end of the aisle. It's important that we kind of develop the synergy between these two concepts, because I think it's in most situations it's been misconstrued. Um, it's been misconstrued by our people, and regardless of how much you are not doing the right thing, regardless of how much you're not actually facing this reality, you will definitely continue being in the receiving end. You understand what I mean? Um,
yeah,
the both ends are very important. Religion is important in developing, psychological energy, or moral concepts.
yeah,
On the other hand, technology and science, which is human asking questions about themselves, or trying to figure out, mirroring themselves to define their lives, and the concept of what is embedded in the life they are living in. So and I went back to that previous podcast, and uh, from what I can actually spear out from all the conversation we are having, even from the one we had before, it gives me the impression that it's a kind of innovated in my mind that if we bring all of these things that we're talking about, science, together, it's only going to bring us to this the topic that we had previously. I think one of the first topics that we had here, which is the concept of asking why about this, why did this happen, why did the other thing happen, and And that is what religion doesn't really want you to do. Religion don't want you to ask questions. They just want you to follow. They want you to. But I think what is important is actually, because both sides are also important. It's also important for people not to for people to follow, but it's also in a different dimension for people to ask questions and find out the reasons for critical things that is happening in their society, which is what brings in the critical thinking, where people start thinking critically. Like if there is a situation, people will start not just looking at it from, oh, there is some things happens without human effort, but also knowing that even those things that happens without human effort have a lean line in between that people can learn. People can actually study those things and understand the patterns of those things that happen, so that they will be able to use those things that happen to develop a system that when those things will happen again, if that thing should happen again, they will be able to resolve it without looking for an alternative or some superstitious, attributes to add to it. And there's lots of countries. In fact, there is no country in the world today that have developed have not adapted to this concept. There is none. Americans, you talk about the United Arab Emirates and every country they have to keep a balance between this concept. And I think the people that the balls is always lying in their court is actually the religious body in our society. We have to distinguish these two ideas that religion should understand what is their responsibility in human, and letting go of human themselves to be able to resolve certain issues, certain situations, certain problems that comes their way. And with this concept, I think let me not take too much so that Michael contribute as well. I have a lot to say anyways, but as things goes on, I will add more. Thank you, Mr. T.
Thank you very much. Mike, you heard what he said.
Yeah.
And from the topic, it presupposes that there's a kind of conflict between these two worlds, the world of science and technology, and then the world of religion. The question presupposes that there's a kind of conflict. Are there really conflict?
Yeah. I mean, yes, the conflict, I started off, one of my sort of observations was there has been in the past a conflict between, because you tend to have these group, let's say the atheists or the agnostics, the ones who don't know, have no idea if there is a God or any use for religion. Then they got the atheist who does not believe in any God whatsoever. And then there's this tendency that the atheists tend to be more leaning towards being more scientific, not necessarily scientists, but they're looking for a more scientific, um, explanation for the existence of man, or for any type of, they like almost want to replace a spiritual belief, or a sense of faith, or a sense in believing in anything more powerful themselves. They want to replace that desire, or that urge, or that seeking for that, divine being. They want to replace that divine being with a scientific approach. People have a theory about the Big Bang theory and how the world was created, and all this thing, always sort of like in a juxtaposition, or in a battle or a war against what the Bible says, or the Quran, or whatever the religious beliefs are. And there is that sort of, or has been that conflict that has gone on. I've read up on it, and intrigued with the whole conflict. But I don't want to get stuck on the conflict aspect of it too much, because I think that science, religion, social progress. Let's put technology to the side for a second. One of the when Sam brought up, that the why, or a why, is a very basic and primal starting point for everything that a human being, every journey and a human being embarks on, there's a why behind it. Whether a journey is destructive or constructive, there's always a why. And getting down to the root of that why is understanding the human being, understanding yourself. And what that triggered in me, because I wasn't planning on going in this direction, but Sam's conversation pulled me that way, and I'm happy to go that way, is who am I? You know, and I think that, and that is something, everything that we're speaking about, science, religion, social progress, and technology, there's nothing that a human being does, embarks on, that does not reflect back on who am I. Because you can study the atom, you can study bacteria, viruses, you can study space dust, clouds, the stars, and the moon. All of that is very abstract if it doesn't, it has to pertain in some way to who you are. You have to be able to use that information. Every human being, whether they realize it or not, even the same scientists that they're saying they're just experimenting, they're not just experimenting to answer questions. All of the information you find out, you have to relate it to yourself. So even in religion, when you're hearing about all the Bible stories, you're hearing about, however, Moses, and Muhammad stories, the desert, all the temptation, everything, all of those, all religion, all science, all social progress is reflecting back on the individual, and the individual is saying, how is this information, um, how does it reflect me? How does it help me? How can I relate to this so that I can absorb this so that it makes a difference in my life? Otherwise, all it is just like listening to the, white noise.
Hello, guys.
See those days. What's
Yeah,
up,
you're
brother?
welcome, Jedoze.
I know you like to make an appearance, That's what happened. You like to make an appearance, right? So
Finally.
It
that's
was,
good, bro.
it's been, I was trying to bring him in, but network was playing up. But at
Yeah.
least he's here now. We thank, we appreciate to have him on board. Jedoze,
Cool.
you're welcome, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mike,
So what I was sort of in the middle of saying, I'll finish up soon, was that the whole scientific world, the tech world, religion, social progress, we are all human beings within these concepts. And there's no information, there's no story, there's no scientific discovery, there's no miracle. There's nothing that occurs in a man and a human being's life that they don't subtly try to grasp. How does this relate to me? How does this help me? How does this show me, teach me? How can I see myself in this? And so it's important to remember that the none of these, science, technology, religion, or social progress, is not which one is sort of better than the other one, because 2,000 years ago, a donkey cart and a donkey tied behind it, that was technology, right? Because it enabled the individual to carry load and to go great distances rather than just walking with your two hands. So, and the reason why that technology would be relevant to the human beings in those times, again, is like I said, it's for progress. You carry bigger load, you cover greater distance, you see more, you grow more, you learn more. So every aspect of life, a human being has to be able to see themselves in it so that they can relate to it, connect to it, and feel a part of it rather than separate from it. And that was my main opening line. But what I wanted to also mention is that it was interesting that Asundo's question said ethical development and not
yeah,
moral development, because ethical development and moral development are not necessarily the same thing. I mean, they share the same sort of boat, so to speak, but ethics and morals can often divide, because, as you know, ethics is the standard rules of a particular group. I mean, doctors, lawyers, social workers, they all have their ethical, their
Ethical,
guideline. Yeah, they
yeah,
have to
ethical
go.
role.
Yeah, but morally, they may not connect with it morally. I mean, I do social work and support work, and
Yeah,
ethically, even if one of my clients is hungry and broke, I am not allowed to give them any money, help them with my money, or give them food. That is unethical. But morally, in my heart, I want to because they need it, right?
Mhm.
So it's very interesting, again, the conflict that can arise between ethics and morals, but also it doesn't have to stay as a conflict, but there is a conflict. Similarly, what we're saying with science, religion, and technology, there it can be seen as a conflict, but actually underneath it all is not a conflict. It's really the human being trying to see themselves in all of these practices. Um, and it does get tricky. Obviously, as I said before, they got in America, if you come into a hospital and you don't got private insurance or big money, it don't matter how sick you are. You out on the curb, brother. I don't care if it's you got your little 6-month-old baby and it dying. The doctor's like, well, I can't touch him. Whereas,
yeah,
but in that doctor's heart, he gotta be crying. He gotta be like, morally, this is wrong. Right?
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
That's
you
true.
know, anyway, I think I don't know if I'm making my point clearly enough, but I think you guys would probably get at what I'm saying, that there's always conflict between these two these kind of big topics that we bring about. But at the end of the day, underneath all that conflict, I think what we want to do is harmonize it so that we as individuals, so that all the technology, all the religion, all the social progress is in the hands of humane human beings, rather than being in the hands of somebody who is a cold-hearted butcher, so to speak. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's
Mm.
my brief intro, and yeah, I'll leave it there for the moment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Mike. Chidozie, I want to come to you now. Uh,
Okay.
the the question, the
Yeah.
topic
Yeah.
presupposes that there is a conflict of sorts between science, religion, science, technology, and religion. Do you think that's it's all about conflict? Are there areas of overlap, areas of where they overlap each other, where they work without conflict? Are there areas where science, technology, and religion tends to agree?
Thank you so much, and my greetings to the distinguished colleague here. So, even though I come late, I didn't get in late, but I was earlier. I
Yeah,
think we
we
can
were
continue.
earlier, yeah,
So,
but it was just
uh, there's always a point of view between this. I mean, this concept and this theories and knowledge that all these concepts promote. They promote differently, and then we live in a world whereby you need a lot of awareness, you need a lot of energy to be able to stay conscious. And then for you to stay conscious, you also need to be aware that a lot of things are happening, because the theoretical and practical information and knowledge that all of these concepts are promoting, like I said, they are quite different. And what are we going to do? We as individuals have a lot to do. There's always going to be a conflict in ideology, because science and tech promotes a different ideology from religion, and we just have to take it from as what it is. But we also have to understand that while science and technology can be, in my own view, can be tribalistic, meaning that cooperation or collaboration might be difficult. They can also align in a lot of values, and especially regarding what our brother was emphasizing about ethics and moral. Yes, when somebody, he also gave practical example about where he works, which is also about what we call respect. We call it respect in another domain. Like what he was doing is that he's trying to ethically respect somebody's right. because that individual you are attending to has got some legal rights that you have to respect. And if you trespass beyond those rights, you will be knocked out. You will have consequences from the company or from whoever. That is why the people normally give a lot of information about how to deal with people. So, but if you look at the conflict in ideology, I tend to say that collaboration is possible. It is possible between all these concepts, and this conflict can collaborate in a way that promote decency and promote sustainability and promote respect and dignity and integrity in the society. And that is why, as scientists and as religious people, the ideology can conflict, but we can understand that it can align to a large extent. What am I trying to say here? Science focuses on their own Bible, whereas religion focuses on their. I'm glad to mention today that science has got its own Bible, because if you begin to mention big names like Charles Darwin, like one of our brothers mentioned the last time, Sami Abraham, Albert Einstein, and all of these big names. These names can be called scientific prophets of their own time. So people tend to lean on science in terms of observation and what they're capable of studying, verifying. They focus a lot on objectivity, but that doesn't mean that science is always objective. But then the interplay of religion and science can bring everything to the middle, whereby we have a lot of projects that can bring them together and where we can respect each other, because ethical development is very important, where we are constantly emphasizing on the moral values that guides all those scientific evolutions and scientific discoveries and innovations. Because if we don't have an ethical placement on those innovations, the world can get chaotic, and that's what we want to prevent. So I have got lots of things to talk about today. And also, before I leave the floor to my fellow colleague, I also want to let us know that from the previous discussions, or especially from the last one, we mentioned a lot about science. These are some of the keywords that came to the fore in our discussions. We mentioned a lot about science, mentioned a lot about technology, we mentioned about religion, which is also different from religious practices, because the question last time was focusing on religious practices. But then we also mentioned something about cosmology, and how we study and know try to understand the fate of the universe. And we also talked about evolution. We also talked about scientific Bible in a way that was implicit. We also mentioned a couple of other things that that concepts and theories can bring on board. But that doesn't mean that wherever they have conflict, that we cannot align to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, William Mary. Mr. Nadi, I want to take you on the ethical dimension of this talk now. Why ethical instead of, it should have been moral? Mike pointed out something about the difference or the conflict of definition between moral and ethical development. So do you think the word should have been moral, where you talk about the rightness or wrongness of a thing, or is it ethical development? Was there a kind of mistake in couching this question in the first place?
Not actually, Mr. T. Not actually. I think the idea of using ethical is very direct. Moral wouldn't have fitted to the right conversation, actually. You know, I tell you about, like, let me just use a kind of a contextual logic to explain what I mean by that. You know, science and religion seems to both they are in a quest to unveil the truth, and the both ends are pointing at each other's and pointing at each other's falsehood. You know, two people that are targeting the same thing. We are both drawing a picture, and instead of us focusing on our pictures, we are focusing on the other ends, wrong writings or wrong grafting of the picture. So that is where the ethical concept will come in, where everyone was gonna know their boundary. Everyone's gonna know that, okay, like our brother Odemiri have just said, and quite well the Big Mike has also said, even though morally you could have done this, or morally you could have, you could have done certain things, but ethically, you know that you shouldn't be doing this. Like I would say, like, let me use an instance. Let me give you even more details of what I'm trying to say. Like a pastor in a church, morally speaking, you may have somebody that is sick. You know, according to the Bible, according to certain verses in the Bible, you could have, admonished the person on how Isaac in the Bible did this, or Moses in the Bible did that. But because what we have, the present, system that we have in this world, that requires people to actually to evolve, or people to ask these questions themselves, being able to address their questions themselves. Even though your morals have given you that religious moral, this is what you've learned from your, from your childhood and all of that, you become ethical, because that ethical is now allowing the other part, because we need doctors to cure sicknesses. We need scientists to ask questions, ask the why. So you, instead of you amassing all these concepts all together to become both the doctor and whatever, you know that when a car engine is broken, you refer the person to the mechanic, not trying to admonish them with Genesis chapter 15. So that is a concept where ethnic this thing. It's important that we understand the balance between these two concepts. That even though that what you are trying to do may actually help the person, but it may, in the other way, hinder the progress of a plumber somewhere, or a doctor somewhere, who was meant to use the illness in that person to evolve, or to understand the pattern of that sickness. So if that answers your question, I don't know if you want me to add more. If that answers your question, then
I think with ethical dimension of it, there is the method of operation is standardized. But when you are talking about morals, you can just go overboard. You can go over any boundaries in terms of trying to be moralistic in your approach to solving problems.
Exactly. If somebody's light, if there is on third road, instead of you, if a house is engulfed with fire, instead of you to find a way to think that what is required in this situation is a fireman, not a blood of Jesus. Even though the blood of Jesus could have an impact, it could make people feel confident. Oh, God is with us, or basically, or things like that. But what it should be what it should be required at that particular point is not the blood of Jesus. Even though it could be very useful, but what is required is a fireman. So that ethical value brings that balance, bring that standard, that what do I call it? Pragmatic things. If pragmatic thing requires pragmatic approaches. You understand? So that's the point I was raising on that.
I think I feel you there, because like we said, when you put things on an ethical balance, it is standardized. This is the ethical standard of doing some stuff. But then you could be moralizing, and at the same and in the course of the moral approach, things could even go south. So I think I understand what you mean there. I
I just
hope
want to say, I just
if,
want to say something.
yeah.
Just to add to what our dear brother has said, I think it's very. He just made a vital important point. But also, we can look at morality or moral values in terms of being able to understand what is right or wrong. For me personally, it can be personalized, but ethical values can also be encompassing, because ethical values, anything about ethical development or values, is still something that is ongoing. For example, if we talk about ethical values in democracy, what is morally right for me might be morally wrong for another person. So I cannot use what is moral right for me to adjudicate or judge another person's morality. But then in that sphere, we are constructing a kind of moral reasoning whereby we're able to judge and say, okay, I am given instruction to do this as a personalized form of understanding. Then, but for me, it is morally wrong for me to do it. So I don't want to do it because I have cultural baggages that are also informing me that doing this thing can be morally unacceptable. But then, in terms of ethical development, we are um, showcasing a society whereby we want equity, we want justice, we want fairness to be guiding us as a principle in some certain things. Because when we put that right, I was emphasizing concerning what our brother said, respecting somebody, being able to observe somebody's right doesn't mean that the right you're observing aligns with your morality, but you still have to respect that person's right. That's when we talk about what has ethical guidelines made us to be obeying. And also, we talk about responsibility, being responsible as a leader, which means that I have to be accountable. This is ethics here. I have to be accountable for my action, and the impact of my action on others and even the broader society where we live. So this is all of these things make a lot of sense in what we promote to be ethical development, and then moral reasoning and moral understanding of being personalized, and can be a lot subjective depending on how we promote that morality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uh,
So
uh,
the
okay.
ethical dimension of it is the standard of operation. That is
Yeah,
what we are saying here.
yeah.
So because morality can be, it can be subjective based on the person and individual and societal and cultural differences. Somebody wrote in, how can you determine that the blood of Jesus is not needed? I think Sam, you made allusion to the blood of Jesus. Somebody has asked, how can you determine that the blood of Jesus is not needed?
All right, I was gonna answer that. I think that question is actually very important, and this is the reason why it's very good that people engage in the conversation, because we're not here as we're not experts from somewhere. We are a community that wants to question things that is around us, and it's good that you ask the question. One thing I've always said to my religious cohorts or people I work with about I think the things about religion have been in most cases very overrated, that people don't even understand what religion is, or what the concept of God itself is. You can see our brother Frank even mentioned about some certain sicknesses that have invaded human um, you know ability, or doctors' abilities and all of that. But what I want to remind our brother Frank is that if you can remember, the one that is even very familiar to the rest of us, that before the white men came to Nigeria, we used to have malaria, and these have been killing people over the years. And we some have terms this as I mentioned in the other podcast about things as simple as leprosy, which is now being cured by antibiotics. I believe that the nature is ruled by a rule, a law. God created this world, and imputed in it a law that guides everything that is nature. That as soon as you apply those laws, it obeys. And this applies to science. It applies to literally everything in life. And any sickness that you have seen that is not curable by a doctor is actually an opportunity for somebody else to innovate those situations, for somebody else to ask the question why, to ask why is this not happening, just like every other thing, just like people are, brainstorming at the moment, trying to find the solution for cancer. And I will use this actually to get into your previous question, because if we have to allocate all of these things to the blood of Jesus, then that innovative mindset will be denied from us. That being able to ask the questions, why is this thing happening? Why were we having malaria and it was not in America? Why would it be the Americans that will, or the British that will travel all the way from Britain to come to Nigeria to solve our problems, to solve our malaria problem, just like every other sickness? And if we keep adhering to that blood of Jesus, we won't ask that question. We won't try to find those laws that is guiding people, that is making people to fall sick when they have a bite of a mosquito, and finding a solution to resolve that. Obviously, your question is all actually in order, because there is a lot of sicknesses, there is a lot of things that is still in existence that we don't even have the solution. And that is why you're here. That is why I am here, to answer those questions, and not some kind of blood of Jesus. I'm not saying that blood of Jesus has not gotten his own stake in human life. Like we mentioned, if you've been following our podcast from the start, we've been discussing about energy, different concept of energy, physical energy, emotional energy, psychological energy. These have got all correlation. They have all got a correlation that join each of them together. And once a community is missing in any of these lake, the community will be in a problem. And that is why we have this problem we're having in our society now. We have always been at the back end of the receiving end, where we've been in a situation because of this concept of superstition, not being able to react to our problems, being able to resolve our problems ourselves. This is the reason why we've been enslaved. This is the reason why we've been colonized. This is even the reason why today we are talking about racism, because those who have innovated these things will only subject us to their servants, because they are the one that are the makers. They are the one that makes the life that we live in. They are the one that solves the problem that we have. So inevitably, we are going to serve them. So if that answers your question, I think it's about us being able to follow these laws. There is principles. I believe, even as a religious person, that God himself, if he's wanted us to be principled people, he should follow principle himself. And I think that is what he has upheld in his creation of man and nature, that he have created nature and applied a principle that if you follow that principle, just imagine back in the, sorry, Mr. T, just imagine back in the days, our forefathers, how they innovated this concept of knowing that vegetable or yam, somebody can eat vegetables or yam and they will not get sick. These are brainstorming, problem-solving mentality, which our forefathers have applied. But with us, the new generation, issues, problems that comes challenging us, instead of us to challenge it square on, we are diverting it or reverting it to some blood of Jesus, or some superstitious, or some spiritual god.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, is like you are saying, there are miracles. Miracles abound. There is no doubt about that. But that does not mean that everything will be subject of miracle. People are supposed to use their brains to solve certain problems for themselves. God gave us brain to allow God to rest in certain aspects of our lives. I think that is what this thing is all about. We should be innovative. God has given us the brain to find solution to some. That is why he said, you are gods, because he has made us in his own image and in his own likeness. Mike, I'm coming.
But anyway, Mr. T,
Yeah.
Mr. T, just to make us laugh a little bit, are you saying or concluding on behalf of what our
No,
our good brother Sammy
I said
believes.
my
I just want to
thought.
ask Sammy a question.
No, my thought.
Sammy, do you believe in
My thought was
miracles?
that miracles are bound. That was what. That
Oh,
was my first. I said miracles are bound, but God has
okay.
given us brain
Yeah.
to allow Him to rest in certain aspects, in certain areas of our lives. We should be able to think because God has given us the brain to think.
Yeah.
Animals do not think,
Yeah.
but God made animals. But He made us in His own image, so that we should be able to create even as He created. So all the things that are going on are as a result of man using his brain, applying his brain to solve solutions, to solve problems and answer questions. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So can I answer that question?
No, please, let us. If we continue on that, we are just going to be on one aspect of this before our time comes to an end.
Right.
Mike, I want to ask you this question now, please.
Yes, brother.
Hello, Mike.
I'm here, brother. I'm here.
Yeah, okay. I want to ask, how is it possible? How can science and technology be used to facilitate interfaith dialogue and promote understanding between different religions and cultures?
You see, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Something that Sam was talking about when the white man first came to Nigeria, and how certain aspects of the world are not developed and certain are developed. And this is underlining sort of the whole social progress of the question that you brought in, or the statement that you brought in. And it's kind of leading back to what I was trying to say before, because all of this, yes, you have to the ethical, you need ethical guidelines. You need otherwise we're gonna have too much sort of, what I think is moral or what I think is not moral. But if you have all of this, a deeper understanding of religion, if you're using technology in a way to enhance and progress human life, then if that is actually going on, then social development will grow. So there'll be no country in the dark ages or suffering from superstitious beliefs. And the very reason why there's still parts of the world that are untouched or underdeveloped, or still believing in, as my man Sam would say, unpragmatic or unrealistic expectations or practices, is because there's a lack of actual social development. There's nothing wrong in any of these concepts: religion, technology, science. But what is wrong, one main thing that is wrong, is interpretation. And another main thing that is wrong is the actual individuals who in the who not own this information, but who have discovered, who have this information. Because we talk about ethics, you talk about curing cancer and curing certain diseases, but we have known, and we get little snippets of truths that are told, that a lot of these, that there are cures for a lot of different diseases around. But they have pharmaceutical companies and governments that get into relationships and connections for the sake of profit and control and power. And it's not shared evenly, globally, because the science and the tech and the information are in the hands of people who are not ethical or moral either. Right? And
Yeah, they are
so
neither ethical or moral. Yeah.
neither, because they write the rules. They write the rules about ethics and what this person should do and what that person should do. But yet still on the ground, in reality, when distribution is supposed to be made of food and commerce, economics, money, everything is supposed to be dispersed in a fair, just way. It is not done in that way. And so for all of the development that we have and the advancement we have in technology, if we have the wrong type of people in this position of of distribution and control and management and power, then you're going to continue to have people living in the dark. People living who are not touched and enhanced by this technology. So okay, so maybe you go and drop a 1,500 cell phones into an underdeveloped country. Okay, great. They got all these cell phones and then they don't have any network coverage. And then when they get the network coverage, because of the type of ignorance displayed within the community, they're using that network coverage and they're using the phones to promote terrorism or to promote, some sort of crime. So, you know, the morals, you can't, even though I know, I understand some perfect points made by Sam and Shidoze and yourself about the whole sort of slight conflict sometimes between morals and ethics. Don't forget that those ethics were written based on morals,
Mhm.
right? They were
Yeah.
based on, a sense of justice, right? And
Mhm.
so it's just a matter of actually, you know, kind of establishing that and working towards. That's why they have so many. That's why they have police to police,
Mhm.
because human beings constantly have to be checked on and and made sure that you could write down all the ethics from A to Z, but you got to put that into practice. And we see the lack of justice in social underdevelopment, because all of the technology out there, all the money's out there, and this whole thing to do, and this one other point I wanted to make about this whole with science and religion and the whole thing. The thing that, to me, even though I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. I'm aware of religion. I understand why they have this organizations of religion, but religion is there to create some sort of comfort, some sort of peace, some sort of solace, so that all of these scientists, all of the firemen, all of the whoever it is that went out there, each of them need that sense of grounding, that sense of peace, that sense of faith, because nothing that you do will ever be enough, right? So there will always be a period in every day when you have to set a process in play, and then and say your and believe in it, and hope for the best. And that's where that whole that the faith comes in. I'm not sure if I actually answered your question, but anyway, that was my contribution for the moment, brother.
That's all right.
Well,
Thank you very
I would
much.
like I would like to add to this ongoing conversation because it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think I kind of agree with our brother uh, Mike and Sam in some of the submissions they've made. But I also want to emphasize that Mike opened up a kind of Pandora's box by touching on the gap in participation and also gap in leadership. But I can also think about gap in followership. That's also the things that are affecting us. I think we are sort of over blaming people for our own problems. That's what I tend to think. And the implication of using words like underdeveloped country, I think for me, it can be debated. It might, for me, it's a wrong concept, because if we begin to ask about what really defines a society as underdeveloped, there will be no cogent answer. Are we using indicators like electricity, infrastructure, those things? But the most important thing for us to understand, based on what we were talking about before, is that religious ideology and scientific ideology, they're quite different. But one interesting thing between them is that they promote evidence-based theories. Because if you ask a religious person what has happened in their religion, I always talk about religion in broad as a broad topic, not just about one religion. They will give instances of what has happened, what has not happened in their religion, and they believe. And that's why religion is about those practices, those faith, and how the beliefs and the practices we do in a way that relates humanity to spirituality. So religion is quite vast. For you to understand religion, you also have to understand faith. But these three concepts can always work hand in hand, because what I was saying the last time is that faith transcends what is empirical. because what is empirical has got a boundary from what faith normally promote. So if somebody says that the Japanese, the South Koreans, and the Chinese, and the United Arab Emirates, and the Qatar, and the Saudi Arabians, they were receiving aids from the same people we're always blaming or complaining about, but suddenly they stopped. That's where Mike was coming in about the gap of participation and the gap of leadership. Effective leadership is not what something will do for you. It is your own responsibility. That's why when we talk about integrity and empathy and being accountable, the norm of accountability and what is ethically binding in law is just generic. It's the same common law that is practiced in England and America that is still practiced in Nigeria. But one wonders what kind of ruling and what kind of court ruling is coming out from.
You're tangenting off to a different thing now.
No. I'm connecting now. I'm just saying that while we tend to talk about society as developed, I can understand some metrics whereby we can talk about development, but also we can talk to ourselves as being the problem and the architect of our problems in general in the places where we call underdeveloped countries. So religion believes in something that is unseen, but science believes in testing and objective, so that they can always align together using a consistent guideline that can promote sustainability for the current generation and the future generations. Thank you.
Can I just say, there's just one thing that keeps coming up. You know, and I keep missing my opportunity to say it, is that even everything should be tested, even if whether it's God-based or splitting the atom and science-based. So if a pastor or a religious person or a spiritual leader is talking about faith, is talking about you know, belief in God, talking about angels, talking about devils, demons, whatever, that theory should be able to be tested in some form by the individual himself. And it goes along with, because I agree 100% with what Chidoze is saying, basically about responsibility. We are all leaders. We have a responsibility to be self-leaders. We are all leaders of our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own life. I mean, you can come and shed light onto the world, and what you're going to use the light for. What is my neighbor going to use it for? What am I going to use it for? I have a responsibility to use it for an honorable means or you know, an integral means to help my family and others. So I agree with that. But what I just wanted to be clear, that just because, you know, when I listen to, you know, spiritual leaders, gurus, all these guys, what they actually want is to actually be challenging me in why I say this about God, or why I say this about Krishna, or why I say this about Muhammad. Challenging me, ask me how can you prove, or what is this whole concept about turning water to wine or parting the Red Sea? What is it? How does it relate to me? And test it, because it may not be able to be measured in a test tube. But as you know, life is a dynamic, ongoing process. And if you can appeal to somebody and show them how faith works for certain people, for themselves, it can be tested. It has to be tested. Because Sam was saying, the thing about a lot of the thing about the fault of religion potentially is about, again, and Chidoze was saying about fellowship. Nobody's expecting you or wanting you to follow like a sheep just blindly. And even though what Sam was implying is that a lot of religion expects that. They don't want to be questioned and challenged. They don't want and you know, so it's important not to follow like a sheep. It's important to ask about this whole thing I was talking about. Who am I in this? How does this relate to me? How is this possible? So you should be able to challenge that. And one other thing, sorry, there's one last thing about the whole and the development. And I get that what I said in terms of an underdeveloped country is a sort of a very broad way of speaking. And I could be even more specific. And I'm glad that you called me on that, because even within England and in America, there's
Yeah,
gross social underdevelopment, and these are supposed to be so-called first world nations. Gross underdevelopment, places where
yeah,
there's neglect and poverty, and
yeah,
you would swear that you're in a jungle, the way that some,
yeah,
and this is within a developed Texas city
yeah,
with skyscrapers that got 50 floors.
yeah,
So don't think that when I said the developed countries, that was a I said that a little bit too blanketed, but under
yeah,
development socially, you understand what I mean?
yeah,
Socially could be anywhere. Anyway,
Yeah.
cheers to
yeah.
that, guys. Go for it.
Thank you
What,
very much.
what,
Chidozie, excuse
our
me,
brother,
Chidozie.
wait. I want to add something very important here.
Yeah.
If we look at the Bible, for example, I'm a Christian. I want to talk from the point of view of Christianity now. When we talk about testing, in the realm of faith, I think it's not something that you test all the time, but science test things all the time, and that's why science believes in objectivity and some other things. But in terms of faith, we should remember one powerful incident, an event that happened, even to the person we are looking at. Somebody was telling him, if you are the Son of God, if you are really the Son of God, turn this stone into bread. I think there were some religious answers, some faith-based answers that were coming from the person, because this is a scientific versus religion here at play. And then the scientific person was telling the religious person, fall down and bow to me, I will give you the whole world, because the science is also focusing on about studying the whole world. And then if we look at the most innovative and the most technologically inclined and scientific country, the first thing they normally say is, may God bless America. And that's also telling you that religion can always collaborate in a way that brings social progress and ethical development, because this part of the social progress you mentioned about is also very interesting. Then we'll talk about how we can improve our life, how we can improve our healthcare. These are the things that how we can improve our laws and how we can improve our economy, because we're always suffering from economic problems all the time. So if we look at this thing in that perspective, that it's not everything that you can test in religion, because if you test everything, you might not get all the answers you want. But in science, you have all the peer-reviewed and scientific documents that also continuously test it, and that's why it's an ongoing process. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. The world is an ongoing process. We are living every day, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. And challenges come, and these things are subject to, test and verification and probably answers. So I want to just leave that one at that. Grace Lillian said it is difficult for science, technology, and religion to come together because of differences in belief. I'm coming to you, Sam. Hello, Sam.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And then against the background of what Mike dropped now about testing everything, and then also coming from the topic of this discussion, we are looking at how to, foster a collaboration between science, technology, and religion. So, what do you see are the challenges? What are the problems, between religion and technology, religion and technology that will make this, collaboration difficult? What are the likely challenges you are seeing that could make the collaboration between religion and science and technology, very difficult to come together? According to one of our one person in the audience who said that it is difficult for science, technology, and religion to come together because of differences in belief. So, are there challenges you see in the coming together of science and technology to build a more progressive society?
Okay. All right, Mr. T. Just to answer your question, if I will paint a picture, of the two sides, I would say that religion is the heart of a person, of a human, while science is the brain. The both cannot work together. That is out of the way. Both of them cannot, because they have different dimensions. Science is all about empirical facts, but there is a synergy in between the two. which we are trying to exploit today. That is part of what we're having as a conversation today. And I will get back to what our brother sent on his text, on his post, and he was saying, I was going to say to him, imagine a world where blood of Jesus solves everything. And then we wouldn't have to invent like cars or planes. Now we'll still be using donkeys. Imagine a world where humans could not invent clothing. Some of us that lives in a winter world, in a place that is very frozen and cold, imagine how we would have survived. This is that synergy that we're trying to explain, that the both ends can always have what they are doing and do it perfectly. But the problem we are having, especially in society where we come from, is religion trying to invade science, trying to find themselves to be the saviors of science, and that is very, very, it's a serious situation. And like our brother, Chidozie and Oman Besala, they have done due diligence to this conversation, and it's an ongoing conversation as well. But we as a human, I believe that the reason why, if from my concept, I think somebody mentioned, if I believe the miracle, a miracle for me is more of a metaphorical concept rather than literal, because I believe that the biggest miracle is you and me being alive and having the brain to brainstorm or critically evaluate things that is surrounding us, like knowing how to wake up in the morning. That is 10 o'clock that you wake up. It's critical thinking. That is all about it. So it all goes down to all of human, cycle. The food that you're eating, the clothes that you're wearing, the problem, the everyday problem. If you're waking up in your home and you have the door at the backyard, the common sense will tell you that if I want to go to work earlier, if I want to go quicker, I need to put it in the front garden, because that is easier for me to go out. You know what I mean? Things like that. Primary things like that. And this is a concept of science. This is the concept of being able to ask questions and find out the easier way or the better way of doing your daily life. And this is where we are lacking. And the reason why we are lacking in it is that the religion that was meant to be focused on its own segment. We have a situation in our community, in our country, where doctors, they quit medical science to go and become miracle propagators. And there is no way society will survive like that. So doctors should be specialized in healing people, like finding herbs, finding patterns in humans' anatomy to find a way to heal them. Not just some thinking that some supernatural things will just appear from somewhere, which never happened. Because it's like what Mike said, relating to what you've just asked. If we can, if there is if these religious people, the pastors can allow themselves to be put to a test, then we won't be having this conversation, because obviously the facts will prevail. But the point is that they don't want you to believe. They want you to only believe and not ask questions, and then assume themselves as having the fact. Is where the problem is. A very implicating kind of concept, and very fragile as well. So in as much as I've just mentioned, we still requires people having some kind of comfort around them, which religion and all of this promotes. I've heard my brother Chidozie, Oman Basara mentioning about some of these Americans that always emphasizes on how God will bless them. And it's even deeper than just what they are saying. Because that's what the Americans have actually done, is being able to segregate these two concepts, knowing that on Sundays people go to church for religious services, and on Monday you come to work. When you're coming to work, you're not telling me about Daniel or Jehovah Beb. You tell me about what is happening at work. You know what I mean? If you, I'm opportune to read. I read machine learning. I read which is part of artificial intelligence. I can bet you that if you go to some of my, when I was in school, when I go to my classmates, like some people from India and Bangladesh, you go to their WhatsApp status. What you'll be seeing is some concepts of AI and all of that. People are posting it on the status on Monday morning, on Tuesday morning. But if you go back to my own status, what you'll be seeing is Jeremiah chapter 15. And on Monday morning, on Tuesday morning, we should be able to distinguish these things. We are not saying religion is not important, but religious should be allocated to religious things. If I'm coming to buy stuff from your shop, you should be telling me how much you're selling those products and how that product will be beneficial to me, rather than telling me how God will bless me and how this and that and that. It's not important. These things does not work together. We should be able to distinguish both apart. Religion goes to religion. Work goes to work. If me and you have got a contract, we focus on that contract. Don't bring the religious rhetorics to it. You understand? So, and
Let him. Are you done? Are you?
I can go on and on. I
Wait,
can go on
No,
and on, but let me allow other people.
I don't want you to go on and on.
Okay.
no, but you see, but what
drop it.
Sam was saying was interesting. But I know that Chidoze wants to come in. I know that, so I'm
No,
not gonna
I
interrupt you,
won't allow
Chidoze.
him to come in because I have a question for him, possibly
Okay,
as
go
a follow-up
Chidoze.
to this. Chidozie, you heard Sam. He said religion should go to religion and science to science. He's trying to validate what Grace Lydian said, that these two cannot come together. From these answers and from this comment on the comment section, do you think that the two cannot work together?
Well, like I said, both of them are promoting different concepts, but also they align. I've also mentioned what I call the scientific Bible and what I call the religious Bible. Religious Bible depends on the sacred text. When you talk about sacred, you know what it implies for somebody who has faith. And then when you talk about a text that is based on objective testing and verification and all of those things, you know what it means about. But there's an interesting thing I mentioned before. I wasn't saying that the May God Bless America encompasses everything America does. No, but I'm just saying that when we consider the concept, the meaning of the concept, and what they set out to study, that's when we will begin to understand the other concept and what they set out to study too. But the alignment between the the scientific Bible and the technological Bible and then the religious Bible is that they have faith evidence theories. Science can say there's been some innovations in science, and so there's been some faith evidence about some sort of healings and what has transpired in religion, and it's always there. It's not just one religion. It's not just from one religion, even from the traditional religion that we believe in. And I just want to emphasize that it's not only in our countries that medical doctors also tell people about miracles or tell people about God or tell people about religion. It's still happening here, even the place where we see as the most developed place in the world. So it's not just about the doctor has got two things operating in him, and the doctor has got the legal right to work on those two things. That's about faith, and that's about the study of the word. But if we get deeper on this, I want you to understand, I want you to look at this. While the faith-based person believes that God created the world, the science-based person is still studying the world to understand the world. So a kind of interesting meaning in this is that the faith-based person has got a sort of question answered. But the scientific person is always proceeding to answer one question or the other, because in a scientific world, there's always going to be something to innovate. When some other thing comes out, then AI will get behind. And it was always CD before, and suddenly it's MP3, and suddenly it's YouTube. All of those things are innovations that are coming out at the expense of the other innovations. So religion, technology, and science, they can collaborate with what our discussion today is focused. We focused on how they can collaborate. They can collaborate by establishing authentic guidelines to guide them. And that is what is actually happening in the world now, where we have environmental crisis being dealt with or being worked on by environmentally processed and organized laws. You know, these are the things that people are beginning to look. If for a faith-based person, if there is no world, where can the science-based person work on? So it's going to be a conflictual arrangement always if we look at it from that dimension, because somebody has created the world from the faith-based side, but somebody believes that the world just came and then I'm studying the world endlessly. So objectivity doesn't mean that everything that science puts out there is objective, because the essence of placing ethical guidelines on abortion is just part of that ongoing influence that religion is also having on science. Because if we don't have guidelines for all the scientific innovations, the world will be chaotic, as I mentioned earlier. So we can look at it as the kind of leadership that that's what we call adaptability, that these two concepts can adapt in a way that works better for society. Because if we focus on social progress, which is about making our society work better and improving our life in our societies, it means that there should be a common ground. There should be a level playing field for these two concepts to work on. And then I believe that continuous advocating of this playing field will make these three concepts collaborate in a way that is effective for the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Osendo,
Thank you. Yeah.
So I just want to speak towards, I know you might have a specific question for me, but I just want to speak towards what Chidozie and Sam were saying, because as usual, you know, I always agree with everything, but I have a sometimes it's a challenge, but what I'm getting at, look at this, right? Just 2 points I want to make.
Yeah.
A true believer, let's say faith-based, as my mom would call it. A true believer sees God in everything, right? In everything, right? And one of the greatest miracles that as Sam was saying, is human beings, our creation, our creativity, our existence, and what we can achieve. And I am challenging what Chidozie is saying directly from this simple point. If you are a religious leader, if you are a pastor, if you are coming from, as you want to call it, faith-based, I believe that if you are an innovative, intelligent, honest, creative individual, faith-based individual, you can use the same Jeremiah, Daniel, David, I don't know, I'm not a religious person. All of these stories, right? You can take the same abilities of AI and all of the actual happenings in the world today, and you should be able to relate your faith and beliefs to day-to-day actions every day. It has to be relatable. You should be able to get up in front of your congregation and speak about the relevant issues that are challenging your society today, using and be able to compare what happened biblically, that story in the Bible, and relate it to every day. Because that is what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something that's supposed to be so separate. It's supposed to be able to be relatable. And if you cannot relate what is faith-based to what is scientific, then you are not connecting the dots. You have to be able to connect the dots, because these stories are not just random stories about, turning bread into stone into bread. That stone into bread, it has to have a deeper meaning, and you should be able to have the intelligence and the creativity and the innovative thinking and understanding of your faith to be able to bring that into reality today, so that a teenager at 14 that's stubborn as hell, you should be able to use your faith-based dialogue and understanding of the Bible, the Quran, or spirituality, and explain to that 14-year-old why he or she should not be, running around, smoking weed and sleeping with men that twice their age, for example. That's what I'm saying. It has to be relatable. And another point I'm going to make, you talk about trying to differentiate a difference between science, religion, and technology. Look at technology. When you build a circuit board, when you build a robot, when you build anything, all of these creations are built off of man, off of a human being's, off of a circuit board can be related to the circuitry in your brain. In a car, the IC unit can be related to arteries and alveoli in your lungs. In a V8 engine, it can be related to a carburetor, can be related to your actual system when you filter in air and petrol to make a machine or rocket go. Human beings, this miracle that we are the basis for all technology. I don't care whether it's Tesla, a rocket going to the moon, or a cell phone, a sat phone. It is based on human technology. Human beings made technology in their likeness. Just like how you talk about God was created, all of us in his or her or whatever God's likeness is, technology is created in human beings' likeness, because that's only what we can only create what we are. And even though you might see a robot like driving a car and you might say, oh, that's real high science. Yes, it's high science, but look at what the robot looked like. A man. You got two arms, two robot arms, and there's a robot heart, robot lungs, robot everything, because everything is done in the likeness of a human being. We are the creation of everything. We are the beginning and the end of everything. We are the problem and we are the solution in everything, and it has to be relatable. So don't tell me that I get what Sam said, leave religion. The only reason why you want to leave religion in the church is because the pastors and the preachers and whoever it is, they cannot bring religion into real life. Therefore, it is not adaptable. Therefore, it's not usable. It should be usable. It should be adaptable. Otherwise, there's just too much division. And that's what I wanted to say. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
I
want
Chibo,
to ask him a question. I
okay.
want to ask him a question, then you can chime in.
Okay.
Based on what you've just said now, Mike.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to integrate scientific discovery into religious teachings, without creating controversies?
Well, okay. Let me look at it this way. Are you saying that a scientist cannot be a devout Christian or Muslim or Jew or be Jewish? A scientist has to be, because if a scientist, then that's why we always break everything down, because we have to be. I'm not naive. I'm not trying to say that you'd expect a scientist necessarily to go, and try to see, maybe he might be able to create a sort of bring science into religion in terms of explain certain situations and happenings in the Bible or in a religious story and explain it in a scientific way. And there are guys who have that skill. They have that skill. They can do that. You know why? Because those guys are actual, honest, clean, clear seekers. These guys are seekers. They are not trying to say, I am right because I know how to split the atom. So what? You can split the atom. So what? How does that make an individual feel? And it's important to take into consideration people's feelings on what people want and what people aspire to do. So if you can take that, you can take your knowledge of medicine. My father, he retired now. He was a doctor, and he would come home and just randomly he'd be talking about medicine and all of different situations, what goes on in the body. He's just talking to us, and I'm just talking, explaining things to us. And none of us turn out to be doctors, right? But the fact is, because he was not trying to create a division necessarily between being a doctor and being a father, his job was to teach and raise us. That he's a father. That's his job. And as a father, you teach your children, whether whether the lessons go on to help them to become rich, whatever, get Nobel Peace, it doesn't matter. Because when you teach, what you are doing is that you are helping individuals to think for themselves. You are helping them to digest information and knowledge. So no knowledge is sort of irrelevant, really, as long as you as long as you share it in a respectful way, right? So I believe that scientist can, if you are really passionate about your work and you genuinely passionate about your work, you can bring your work to any, like that's like you go into a party and you are a surgeon and you go into a party with pure Rastafarians, right? Rastafarians are they're farmers now, right? And you're a scientist, you're a surgeon, and you're trying to tell me that as a surgeon, you can't go to that party with the Rastas and have a chat with them and find common ground and talk to them in man to man as human beings. If you can't do that, it's because of arrogance. It's because of boundaries that you put up in your own mind that you cannot relate to these guys because they are farmers and you are a surgeon. Because there's science in everything. There's science in the same farmer that don't want to hear about AI. He just want to plow yams and grow spinach. There's science in the same earth that he's toiling and growing. And that same surgeon, he has to eat too. You know what I mean? And so the farmer will have his role in that. So what I'm talking about is a whole sort of social human development where we should be able to harmonize all of these practices. Yes, there are boundaries. Yes, there are subjects, and I'm not trying to say that everybody should just kind of like have no titles or roles. Of course, you have to have titles and there will be biases and stuff like that. But the idea is to break down those barriers and make everything, and remember that we human beings, we are it. We are, you know what I mean? Like I said, everything is based on human psychology, on the actual structure of our bodies. So we are the beginning and the end. We are, and we have that responsibility to find a way, to make it work, despite the boundaries and the divisions. Find a way to make it work. Find a common ground and be honest and not be arrogant and open up yourselves to true knowledge and share that knowledge, right? So yeah, that's me.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Mike, and thank you so much, our brother Sam. Like I said before, I normally stay on the question because what we are now touching on is a little bit outside the question, but it's still pertinent to the question, because the question is how can the advancement of technology, science, and religion promote social progress and then ethical development. So when you talk about, I might differ from Mike, or I might differ from him in saying that we are the beginning and the end. We're not the beginning and the end. We're just an instrument used by a higher force that is better and stronger and bigger than us. So we can do. There are limits to what we can do. Because I noted some of the points you were mentioned. There are limits to something we can do, and that's the reason why we die. If we are at the beginning and the end, we cannot die. So that means that some other forces are controlling us in that thing. We are focusing on social progress, and one of the fantastic things that brings social change and that social progress is the kind of policies we implement in our societies. If you study the ones we tend to tag as developed countries, the kind of policies they implement in their country, we can see the differences. We can see how everything differs from one context to the other. That somebody is a medical doctor does not mean that the person is the arbiter for everything. No, medical doctor is just one tiny section of what we're talking about. Because when a medical doctor was studying, the medical doctor was studying with the human body made by God, according to the faith-based person. So I want us to be understanding this thing. And in terms of religion, religion is relating humanity to spirituality, and religion has got a secret text whereby they get their information, and that is about faith. They were not there when this texts were written, but this text is a sort of commanding voice in the context of religion. That doesn't mean that we cannot relate. I haven't talked about people not relating, or critical thinking is quite different from what we're talking about. Even a religious person has also got critical thinking and critical view about what they say, even though there's some pastors and some people that are preaching about religion today are kind of corrupt. And that's also what the topic we discussed last week was emphasizing on, that this topic is democratized religious practices, making us to have choices. And I have also said that my choice doesn't mean that I am better off than another person's choice. We still have to kind of align. And that was why I was saying from the introduction that we need to blend these theories in a way that inspires the society positively. Because if we don't blend them, there's always going to be a catastrophic situation whereby we can't control what is happening. Then I'm not going to say that a religious person is not because of science. No, science is using what a religious person believes that was created by God. And science, the robot you're talking about, maybe the scientific person believes, and all of us are scientific because the religious institution has given a lot of support for scientific innovations and everything. And then maybe we are talking about a robot which may have a longer lifespan, and you can always distinguish between robots and human beings. And there are limits to what robots can do, because the human beings are the God, like in the religious realm, are the God of this earth. Everything is handed over to human beings to explore. So innovation didn't start today. Science didn't start today. Science started all over, because if you go through all the historic events of Israelites, you will see that there's been scientific innovation, because Israel is also one of the most innovative countries in the world, and scientifically and technologically inclined country in the world. That doesn't make them less human because they are also religious. No, what we are saying here about it's not about demonizing pastors or demonizing preachers and not going to work. Work is different from what science and work are entirely two different concepts and two different domains. If the religious person goes to work, even attending your, everybody goes to work, both religion and scientific inclined people. But what we are talking about, science studies the world. It is technology that applies the concept and knowledge of science to practically solve the problem we have. Without technology, the innovations from science might not have impact, and that's why they work hand in hand. So they aim to enhance our capacities and our values in terms of what we can do, and that is why social progress is related to the better life we are talking about, using science and technology to promote, and also using religion to set ethical values. That's the ethical development, setting integrity, respect, and sustainability, and also accountability and responsibility in all those innovations. Because if we allow these innovations to be viral just like that, there's always going to be a problem. Even in the research world now, there are policies and laws coming out against AI. Some people are no longer creative. Even the way we're using creative to talk about, some people rely so much on AI to write whatever they want to write. But if you talk about policies and the choice of implementing all those policies, it makes life changing, which means that we need to look at the kind of leadership we have. Not just about religion, or demonizing pastor. There's always going to be pastor. There's always going to be somebody who is a religious leader. But that you're a religious leader doesn't mean that if you come to religion or religious office, you have to be preaching about science. They give the support for science to thrive, and science is thriving under every religious belief. But then, because they have this alignment in their faith-based belief, we cannot say that. I'm not going to say that, okay, because you have done innovation, that you're better off than a religious person who is preaching about what he believes in. And I'm not going to say, even Indians, we mentioned the Indians before, even the Indians, if you go to China, if you go to Japan, there's always these things. In Japan, they mold something, even though they are technologically inclined, but they still mold something they believe in. And they kind of worship. That is their traditional way of believing in something that is larger than themselves. It's not just about innovation, but every innovation has got a starting point. Can we go back to when we started innovating something? But even when the Israelites were coming back, according to the history of Christian religion, the larger power and the larger force we are always believing in gives them the power to innovate whatever they want. And that's because of science made it possible for some of these guys to start building a house where they want to go and see God. In the Christian context, a Muslim man might believe in something else. That's also acceptable. A traditional person might believe in something else. That's also acceptable. It was science that was going to meet God by building a long skyscraper to meet God, and we also learned about what happened in the process. So I do agree that we cannot leave everything to science, but that doesn't mean that we can say that because science exists and we cannot find a rhythm or a balance in these two or three concepts working together. We can always find a way to make sure that we have a serious ethical principles that is guiding us. It's not just about innovating, but innovating in a way that makes us our society sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sam, I come to you now. Hello?
Yeah.
Sam?
And I can hear you.
I want to ask you, are religious leaders subject to ethical practices? If they are there lessons they can learn from the scientists to make their practices better?
Mr. T, I was going to add a little bit to what our brother Ched, I was going to remember Salavo.
You can add, then you revert to the question.
I think the problem here is this monotheism in certain religion. Certain religions believes that they have the monopoly to what the concept of God should be, or they have to direct or be the one that will determine the concept of God. And this is literally why we have the problem we have everywhere around the world. It's been for ages where Christians and Muslims are fighting and killing each other, and Judaism everywhere they're fighting, because the same God that they are claiming that is supernatural, that is beyond human concept or beyond human's ability, they are on the other side trying to tell you they know him. It is only through us that you can know him. And this have become a subject of arguments and war and conflict and all of that. Having said that, let me put that aside. God is something that is beyond you and me and scientists and whoever. The scientists have not, even with their abilities and all the innovations they have been putting in place, they have not put a hand on what we define or what we classify as the supernatural. They're still inventing that, but not yet. But if we understand this, then it brings these interrogations amongst us. How we can now, as people who are learners, who are actually trying to learn this God, and not people who have the faculty of God that we have to distribute to others. If we are learners like others, then it will now make us to have that collaborative mindset, knowing that we're not the know-it-all. We are not the what do I call it, exclusiveness of knowledge. That we can actually understand the perspective of others, which is part of what we discuss this in the concept of bias, where you being objective, you understanding that a scientist, in my view, I'm not an atheist, but I still, in my view, believe that the atheists themselves, they believe in God, but maybe it's not the concept of the God I am thinking about. My one is subjected. My one is figurative. Like I can see it. I can, something like that. But their one's is their one is figurative or something. Their one cannot be. You cannot hold it. You cannot say that this is their God. But in the concept, they still rely on a concept that is unknown. Because if you ask a scientist about the Big Bang, they said, how did it come to effect? They still does not know. So it means they have got to a level that they don't know, which is part of what religion is claiming as well, because they believe that God is unknown. So I want to explain, coming back to what we're discussing about how religious leaders can collaborate and all. I think Mr. T, isn't that your question?
My question is, are religious leaders ethically based, or religious worship ethically based? And if they are there lessons that they can learn from the scientists to make progress in their in this effort to collaborate with science and technology?
Well, I think your question is self-explanatory. If the religious leaders are able to, the point is, I'll explain. I'll take a test from your question as well. Our brother was mentioning about a fire outburst somewhere, and somebody will come in to shout the name of Jesus. The same man that shouts the name of Jesus, that believes that Jesus will come with some spiritual power to extinguish the fire, will still be the same one that if you provide them with a fire extinguisher, they will be able to use a fire extinguisher to extinguish the light. Like a religious man, a pastor that is trying to tell you how God can do some magic and something, is the same man that is making use of a vehicle produced by men, by the scientist. So you understand that even these religious people, they also benefit from these things when it's established, but they don't want to promote it in the first place. They don't want to provide the atmosphere for people to understand that these are literal terms. These are things that people can do for themselves. But when those things have been achieved by the scientists and whatever, they want to be part of it. So the lesson they should learn is to balance their monopoly, to balance it, to understand that they don't know it all. That if you're talking about how the people of Israel was blowing a trumpet in Jericho, and the walls of Jericho is falling down, the pastor that is making these references should also refer back to the Israel of today. They are fighting the Palestinians, and they're not using the trumpet. They're using science-based, practical-based equipment. So when they are making these references to their members, even though these are metaphorical stories from the Bible, they should also be realistic in that concept. That the same Israel we're talking about that have done all these magics and all of that, if you go back to the Israel today, the skyscrapers, the roads they are using are not made by the blood of Jesus. It is made by practical terms, by cars, by stones, by handyman that comes in to work and get these things done. Even though we read about them every bloody day, every day we wake up in the morning, we post about them in our status. But go to that same Israel today, you will find out pragmatic things are allocated to pragmatic things. On Friday morning, you find the Israelites going to their synagogue peacefully. And they come back on Monday, they get back to basics, get back to work. So the religious leaders, like, there's something else I want to point out before I round up what I was going to say, is when our brother Chiedozie was making references. I don't, in my concept, I don't think that the Western world, I can make references to the Western world, to the Western world, but the Western world is not a set standard for everybody else to emulate. But we can always make references to what they've done well, but they are not the standard. I don't see the Western world as being the standard that everybody has to follow. We could do more. It's only embedded in our ability, in our concept, being able to, to empower ourselves to do more. They're not the standard. I was making references to a doctor that reverted from being a doctor to being a science. I think that's one the point that is very important as well, if I make some emphasis on it as well. That it's like somebody who is a footballer. If a footballer opts out to become a critic of football, that is where that is the line I was going to draw. That is the line that's the point I was trying to make, because these two ideas does not work together. If you're a doctor, in terms of sicknesses, you your faculty should be able to position that sicknesses requires natural approaches. If that changes for you to think that there's some spiritual things that will do, it's like when somebody is meant to go and sit for an exam, and you are in the same vein telling the person that somebody else is going to do the exams for them. These two things cannot work together. A scientist should be a scientist. A doctor should be a doctor. A doctor should not be a doctor and still believe that some spiritual things, it's like you setting exams that is meant for you to resolve or to solve. You think you're in another hand thinking that there's something else is going to do it for you. So what I'm saying, I'll just keep emphasizing on what I was saying. Religion. And when we use the word collaborate doesn't necessarily mean that you have to agree. Even in law, in what do I call it, spiritual intelligence, you can understand that you may not agree with me unless you want to be monopolistic in your views, that it's only what you think, it's only what you believe that is the standard. You don't science or the religious leaders does not necessarily need to agree with science, but they need to find a way, especially in a community of ours, to find a way to collaborate or building that environment or allowing that environment to strive. Because I think they are actually in the blockage of science evolution in our society, of people being able to think critically, or people being able to look at problem as a way or a means of improving the society. That these problems that we see every day in another hems of another country, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people who are smart thinkers to think of solutions. So, but the religious concept in our environment or in our society have blocked this concept because they assume, they try to promote some spiritual things that will do these things. And this is my argument. I'm not against religion. I think religion is good if it's doing the right thing. But when it starts, hijacking other things that is actually affecting the society, that is where I raise my argument.
So what can the religious man learn from the scientists or the technologists to make religion better and to work towards social progress?
Thank you again. Thank you. I was going to say that as well. Like I was reading a commentary on COVID, and then this concept of what the build up of science and how it helps us to do literally everything. Today most religious bodies are now having virtual meetings, virtual churches, and all of that. And I was also being referred to a program in Nigeria that I think the man is in fact, he becomes so popular that people even tends to make him some hero or something. Is it NSPDC or something? I can't remember. What do you call it? God cannot do does not exist. If it wasn't about COVID, if it's not about visual gathering, that man wouldn't have existed. It was science innovation, promoting religious concept. You understand the point? So science on its own is not just a strange emperor that is trying to come and abolish religion. It also enhances religion, enhances the way we communicate to ourselves. Like the reference of that's what God cannot do. If we cannot talk to each other on this phone, there won't be that. There won't be it. So people who are embracing their religious concept should also understand that even for this message of the gospel to be spread as quick as possible, that innovation is going to be a big part of it as well. I told you I read about machine learning, which is part of artificial intelligence. There is something we call convolutional neural network in the concept, in the build-up of it. It's just that is the fundamentals of AI, which scientists, innovation is trying to mimic the neural network of a human, which God created. God devised this neural network and gives it a connection to pass informations around the human. And this is what the science have looked at, and they're mimicking it. And this is what is being referred to there as the AI. This is what is referred to as the artificial intelligence. Just like every other thing that you see in this world, just like the knowledge of a car is being invented. I think it's been invented from a horse. They looked at the way the horse, the way they power themselves and they run quicker and faster and all of that. They innovated it to make it a machine, and people are using it. And even these religious people are even boasting of having a lot of it. They use it for gifts for themselves at the moment. So we should find a way to understand these things. The whole world is not waiting for us. The world, at its stance now, we're talking about slavery, we're talking about colonization. Today, tomorrow, it will be AI, what do I call it? By bias. And we're not part of people who are building, we're not part of the people who are building this monument. And once we're not there, it's high chances that we will be at the receiving end. There's high chances that it's going to go against us. If we keep on quoting Jeremiah, even though the Israelites that we are quoting are part of this concept. They are work. If you go to the biggest scientists in the world today, you will find most of them are Israelites, and we are here reading about them every day, every morning. And this is my outcry. This is what I'm trying to say. We can join.
Yeah, I think anyway.
Yeah.
You can land. I think you can land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sam, you can go and just round off.
So to round up on all of these things is that, like I said, we heard about a recent program in CNN that some AI concepts have been programmed to be biased about certain demography of people. And at the end of the day, if we leave this in the next 20 years, 30 years, the bias will be coming to Black people, because we're not part of the people that are building these things from the start. And then we'll go back tomorrow and say, oh, they are racist about us. They don't want us there. They don't want us here. But now that people are folding their sleeves to be part of this innovation, we are here quoting Jeremiah and Jericho.
Yeah. So, thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you so much, brother, for your amazing point of view.
And I just want to I'll come to you so that
okay.
By the time you take it, you round off too.
Okay.
Sam, is there any final point from you?
Yes, my final point is that we have to wake up, all of us. We have to wake up. I feel pain. Sometimes this thing, I'm a bit passionate about this thing, because I have two boys that's going to affect, if there's going to face exactly the same thing that I'm facing as I speak to you now. I live in the United Kingdom and I know what I face every day. It's not because I'm not smart. The opportunity that is before me have been limited because I've been delegated to a certain, what do I call it? Less human. And the only way we can do this is to speak up and tell us religious is important. Yes, science is also important. This is what rules the world. If there is an issue if there is a disagreement with you and an American man tomorrow, the high chances that the Americans will invade Nigeria and nothing will happen is high. And Jesus or whoever cannot do nothing about it. Because God has given us the opportunity to be these Americans today, and we have refused and think that, oh, he's going to come and protect us. What is happening in Palestine today, or what is happening in Ukraine today should also be a lesson to us, that without we being innovative or technological or scientific innovative, that we will continue to be the downtrodden of the world. and persecutions, sufferings, all these things that we have mentioned, slavery, colonization, racism, limited opportunities, poverty. That is where we will, that is the place that that is our position. That will always be our position. We can complain, we can allocate it to the leaders or to whoever we want to allocate it to, but we are the one that is going to be affected. Our family, my little boy will still wake up one day and be going to school, and somebody will look at him as a black man and thinks that he's got no sense, that is it's not smart. Unless we have an evolution or we have a crusade of AI build up from Nigeria coming as attackers to the and they know that we have a force somewhere or from Africa or from Jamaica. That is the point. That is what I'm trying to explain.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I'm
Mike,
emotional about this. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm somehow emotional.
you're becoming emotional. I understand
Yeah.
that. Mike,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
I want to come to you now, because the way Sam has said is there's a kind of
Emotional attachment.
yeah, he's becoming emotional, and I want you to, while rounding off, to tell us, if you just said that man is the total package, as far as AI and religion is concerned, or what religion and science technology is concerned. Can you just put more flesh to that? Then you can just give us your final touch on the
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah. So where to start? I mean, the thing is that um, when you look at the whole the subject matter here, science, technology, religion, understanding that all of us human beings, we have our tendencies. We have our tendencies. We have the way we are created, and scientists will talk about genetic structure, what we are prone to do and prone to be and prone to say and prone to how we behave. We have DNA structures from our parents and our foreparents and the parents before them and them and them, plus our own original synapses and DNA structure. All right. So we are a product of this world, of this universe. We are a product. We are part of it. And we are also, our sons and daughters of our ancestry. And the reason why I'm speaking so far back is because I'm trying to create a realistic picture of today, so that there will always be some people who are more spiritually inclined. They will always be speaking more sort of faith-based, or speaking about God, or speaking about the unseen, and there are many miracles. Spiritual people call them miracles. Scientists call them unknown factors. As Sam and Chidoza and all of you guys know, that no matter how much science has developed, there are still unknowns in medicine, in as in physics and chemistry. There's so many unknowns that you could call them miracles, but they're unexplained by science. And even the same scientists, they have to keep seeking, and they have to keep believing, and they have to keep working on a faith in their system of relating to this world and their purpose on this world, whether it's science or whatever. They have a faith that they will find the answers. So everything, faith is not necessarily to do with religion. Faith is a human concept. Faith is a part of a human being's makeup. We all have to have faith, because none of us have all the answers. None of us. I don't care who, Einstein, from back down to the same one, Elon Musk. There are unknowns even in their capacity for research. So religion is just a path, is just a sort of a color or a way of contributing to this life that we live. And back in the 13th, 14th century, they always had the church and religion involved because they believed that because they ruled with fear. So God was a concept. God, you had to fear God. So once the church was on the side of the king, then the church would say, well, look, God appointed this king, therefore the king has to be right. That's traditionally how Christianity came into this whole thing as a fear-based control tool, right? In order to create and control society. So that even though religion, as Sam was saying, there are real life problems today with AI and how AI has been, even not going to be, is AI can be biased towards certain people of certain color wearing certain outfits to profile them and categorize them, and so they can be persecuted and investigated by authorities. That's going on till today. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what I was getting at when I say, despite all the science and all the technology, is individuals behind these creations are going to make these things either an abomination or a blessing, because the way that technology is a tool, and the way these tools are used is in the hands of who they're in the hands of that matter. And what I was getting at with the whole religion is that religion traditionally is just that, as my man says, on the money of America, on the $10 bills, $20, whatever, God bless, in God we trust. On money, it says in God we trust, because religion traditionally and God traditionally has this thing, well, as long as God is on your side, you are in the right. And everything that you do is considered right. And that's why, if I may be so bold as to say, you will still see those Israeli generals that bombing the hell out of Palestine going to the synagogue on a Saturday or a Friday or whatever and praying, because within them they have a conscience, they have a heart, they have a belief system, and if they believe that their God is on their side and what they are doing is right, it makes them feel a little bit better emotionally. It's not logical. It is what's the word? It's not logical. It's emotional. It helps them in their quest to do right, to strike down these evil people, whoever they are. From apartheid right back down to slavery, God blessed the commerce, the politicians. So God, you have to understand, is a very old, ancient custom that gives righteousness and rightness to the acts of man today, tomorrow, and next year. It will never ever end. And so even that, even to me, supports what Sam is saying, because it's important that what Sam is saying is that we don't get too caught up in the God concept. Let's deal with what's going on right here and right now for our future of our children and all. I totally understand, but I just wanted to say that there will always be people who are more sort of, their thing is a more religious sort of tilt to it, and they want to be more spiritual and God-based as their role in society, because society is a multifaceted entity. In society that have your scientists, you got your teachers, you got your carpenters, and it's supposed to be like that, because as you said in the thing, it's about social progress and social development, and everybody, as I said, as the tide rises, all the ships supposed to rise together. And religion is just another one of those concepts, but it's steeped in a lot of tradition and a lot of power behind it. And so that's why on the American dollar, there's still in God we trust, because as long as you think you got God on your side, it gives the rest of society a tendency to believe in what you are doing, even if it's downright evil. you know. So, as I said, no stone can be left unturned. For the sake of our children, for the sake of social development, no stone can be left unturned. And even though some and many believe that religion is an old, outdated, archaic sort of system, it is still very much intricately involved within our society, and it always will be. It always has been, and it always will be. It's just that they've got some people who will sort of fight against it, and some people who will have a tendency to go towards it. But those some generals, those some racist people, a lot of them have religious beliefs. They have religious beliefs, and because for them they still consider it important. So yeah, it's a battle on all fronts. So yeah, so that's my my contribution,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Jedozel, what's your land? Thank you, Mike.
Cheers, bro.
Well, anyway, I want to make it a little bit comprehensive because they've touched on some vital important points. The issue of AI can be biased and all of those things, that's acceptable and that's agreeable. But also, that somebody invented a particular concept doesn't mean that the person owes the monopoly of invention. Because I want to touch on a little bit of comment on a little bit of what, and then I close. So I close with a thought-provoking question. So when you talk about Israelites fighting war and not fighting with the same artilleries or the same weapons now, but if you still go back, you will understand that science is about innovation. Innovation means that the model of car we used in 1960 is not the same model of car we're using now. From the same, like Nissan or Toyota, they're never going to be the same, and they're not the same. They change over time. That means that it's an ongoing evolution and an ongoing study of the environment to add value to a particular model to improve it so that it can fit in to the model of a particular year. And that's also why a 2000 model is different from a 2005 model. I think that we have to be cognizant of the question, how can science, technology, and religion collaborate to promote social progress and development? Sometimes it's been interesting to note that we kind of comment on our emotional attachment and emotional beliefs about things, but if we keep it a little bit open for people to learn, because every discussion is valid, every point of view is valid. And like our brother was saying, nobody has the monopoly of religion, and nobody's. If you look at the religious people, they're always like passing their message. It's about belief. And I have seen scientific people. Get converted to religion, and I've also seen religious people start questioning, just like some of us are doing now. Start questioning and saying that this thing should be done, this thing should be done. We haven't talked about whether it should be done or done. Curiosity is very important. I advocate curiosity. And also, what we are yesterday can never be equated with what we are today. If one doctor makes a reference about something in a particular context, that doesn't mean that we will have to generalize towards all the doctors because one doctor made something. And it's also a point to know that the science and technology has not got any monopoly to tell somebody not to believe in what they believe. And that's why we live in a free world. And that's why we emphasize about freedom in law. So if we look at whether we are still, our brother mentioned also that they're still inventing, trying to know whether they can invent the supernatural. That's the place, that's the crux of the matter. That's where they begin to diverge in their belief, because they have also gotten, as I mentioned earlier, faith-based evidence about what they believe in. So if we talk about the supernatural, one has already believed. I'm mentioning about religion in general, not about specific religion, but if I want to give a particular example, I will narrow it down to the religion I am conversant with, because a Muslim person will always be more intelligible about what they believe in more than me. So if we look at the concept or the statement of what God cannot do, it does not exist. That's also about faith. Faith, it doesn't mean that it's just about religious people having faith. Faith extends to both religious and scientific and technological people, because faith is about believing in something. Sometimes somebody might be writing an application to study or application to get a job. But in the end of the day, you write hundreds of applications, but you don't get a job. In the concept of that, what God cannot do, you might pray. We've also talked about prayer, that prayer works. The religious person might pray and say, God, lead me to that's where we have these things work in real life. Lead me to somebody who can help me. This person will manifest. That's the faith I'm talking about. And if you don't have that faith, it's not like something that somebody has to force you to have. No, it's an independent self agreement that you have. If you want to believe if you want to advocate or become a follower of Muslim, you have the legal right to do these things. Coming about fire outbursts somewhere, and somebody will be shouting about the name of Jesus. If you know the religion, that Christian religion emphasizes about the blood of Jesus, because the blood of Jesus that's about Christianity now, was used to pay the highest price for the people, the followers of Christ. And to be a follower of Christ doesn't mean that you have to be forced to be a follower of Christ. It's something that you decide on your own to do. So you can follow Christ or not. And then which we can also see that sometimes the person that believes in that Jesus and have faith in that Jesus can say blood of Jesus Christ, and it can clear some doubts. It can clear some doubts for the person. It works for the people who believe. And that's also why the sacred text of the Christian religion mentioned that there's a blessing for those who didn't see but believe. This is also about faith. Now, if we are talking about Westerners, using them as a standard of, I've always talked about that thing, that nobody should be used as a standard for anything, because we are all intelligent people. It's just that we are not implementing the right policies in our countries. And then to implement the right policies needs that ethical development to help us to enhance our social progress. Because if we are bound by the core principle of integrity, core principle of empathy, and freedom of expressions and accountability and responsibility and responsiveness, if we're bound by these ethical principles, it can mean that we can be more accountable in the way we handle money. Somebody will say that, why is it that it's just only one particular people that are still begging for AIDS over the years, even though that all the other countries and continents that were begging for AIDS have stopped begging for AIDS and are now giving AIDS? Are Chinese people more intelligent? No. Are Indians more intelligent? No. Are Americans more intelligent? No. Are the Westerners more intelligent? No. It's just about having that controlled ethical principles to make you to initiate a better policy for your country to progress. That's also about leadership. And then when they give you money, when you spend money, you account for the money you've spent. And leadership shouldn't be a way of going there to aggrandize or enrich yourself. No, leadership should be a way of serving the people in a very accountable and respectful and dignified way. That's what this thing should be about. Science, in its own way, and technology can still promote social progress. Like I said, we can blend these theories in a way that stimulates cooperation and collaboration between them and inspire our society positively. I have never seen a situation whereby sometimes somebody would be telling, because I'm a religious person, you don't have to believe in artificial intelligence, or you don't have to work in science. Artificial intelligence just the other day. And there were other concepts before artificial intelligence we have to understand. So the crusade about AI or bias or anything, anybody can always be biased to you if you're already biased with yourself. If you're not biased about what you do or with yourself, somebody being biased to you would never make any sense. And that's also why I say that even though that there are some negative sides of religion, which we also emphasize, that technology has imposed some sort of implicit accountability to religion, whereby some people are beginning to know what they're not known to before. And then you can see that there's this personality clash between the religious leaders due to the influence of technology. And also, technology has democratized religious practices in several ways, and now we have better choices. And if we are sticking to the question, how can these things promote social progress and development? These things can work in a way that collaborates, and if we need effective leadership, we need transparency, we need accountability, because there are also faith, a project like an organization like Faith Green Organization. They're already there, collaborating with scientific institutions to make a better place for individuals in the world. And then I want to, before I make my last statement and put up my thought-provoking question, I just want to differentiate between what we call colonization, black man. I don't believe in anything black people, but that's not what we're going to talk today, because nobody's black. It's just power relationship. And about slavery, I mentioned the last time that the kind of thing we preach back home is hate speech. That is quite different from slavery, because it never exists in any way that where we have slavery in between. But outside, we've got incidents of slavery between the world power and then Africa and then other parts of the world. But then I was making a statement in the classroom about this, and I want you to learn this today. The United Kingdom we live in were once slaves to Roman Empire for almost 400 years. If you go and research, that's why people, it's not just about talking about science. We still have to know about all the relevant information. The United Kingdom were slaves for up to 400 years to the Roman Empire. Greece, that we know about today as one of the world powers before, were slaves up to 400 years to Turkey. The biggest church in Greece is currently being transformed as a mosque in Turkish capital, Istanbul. And then Israelites, as also the bedrock and then the foundation of this Christian religion. They've also been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. These are facts. So these things can be differentiated from the original point of view that when we see a Westerner, instead of approaching the person with open-mindedness that you also believe in yourself, we tend to approach people with inferiority complex. When you attribute inferiority complex to yourself, it can damage your perception about how you can relate to others. Because there are many good people in the Western world as much as there are many bad people in everywhere, all over the world. So in my conclusion and in putting forward this provocative question that we can go back and research about, is that today is still, a very good day for us to make a lot of difference in the world, And in today's world, we can understand that people know better. People are knowing better and better, and people are improving on the social progress aspect and also the ethical development aspect. And then if we look at what we have emphasized on today, we've also critically looked at the diverse and the collaborative way that this concept can relate to themselves. But also, we've also highlighted some differences and then some important issues that we can redefine or we can research in the near future. But another thing we can do is that we can bring love and fun to this thing in a way that makes the religious people and the scientific people to both participate in the concept they promote. And then in this way, it can help us to benefit from the positive side of science and technology, and also positive side of technology, while also learning from the negative sides of technology and negative sides of religion, because all this concept have got positive and negative sides. So in doing this thing, we can understand that this has been an interdisciplinary discussion, because science and religion and technology, they're all different contexts, they're all different interdisciplinary domains that we can talk things about. So since we are dealing with interdisciplinary concept, I think it's encouraging to look at this question this way. How can these interdisciplinary concepts about science, religion, and technology create a more sustainable solutions that address the global challenge, while also respecting our diverse and cultural values? I'll leave you here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very long one. It was just like you were preaching, but then that is why we're here. Thank you very much. And lastly, Socrates Elect said, collaboration between science, technology, and religion can be a powerful catalyst for social progress. Respecting boundaries is everything. In technology, give to technology what belongs to technology. In science, give to science what belongs to science. In religion, give to God what belongs to God. To be honest, science and religion are like two parallel lines. Two parallel lines that cannot meet. Thank you, my brother, Socrates Alex. That has brought us to the end of this interesting.
Mr. T.
Listen,
Yeah.
guys, just quickly. I gotta run though, guys. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to leave, but I just want to say thanks for the discussion, and yeah, as always, there will always be more to discuss, but it was wonderful and it was beautiful, and I appreciate the opportunity, guys. So we will catch up next time. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Peace.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Mr. T, just one thing to add to what Oman Ben Salah just said, just a little bit to add. I think we are all saying the same thing. What I was saying before is literally what he just said. That you know, when we're talking about fire engulfing a place, and the person may have some psychological, you know, kind of confidence by spread or shouting the blood of Jesus. That is what we are talking about. Religion should allocate this to psychological things, not pragmatic things. In a where I disagree is when somebody makes you believe that that blood of Jesus will quench the fire, because it won't. And that is the point I will make it. Thank you very much. That's just what I was going to add to it.
Thank you,
And
thank
also,
you,
and
thank
also,
you, thank you, thank you.
sorry, brother.
Thank you,
Sorry, brother. I
thank
want to
you,
add something important there.
thank you, please.
I want to add something important, brother. Please, I want to add something important there. And also be mindful that in some cases, even in the US, in some major surgery that they do, that some religious people can be invited to pray before they start surgery. These are also the way that we can align these things to work together. That's what we are preaching. That's what we are talking about. To find a balance, to create a collaboration between them. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I think you're still making the same point. I think we're still making the same point. That man that is coming to pray is not going to do the surgery. The only problem I have is when the man that is coming to pray is telling them not to do the surgery, that after the prayers, that the illness will be gone. And that is where I have a problem. Because
yeah, but if you have open mind, if we are open mind to the discussion, we can understand that the religion has never said that this one is wrong. The religion has always supported, because the religion has built the bedrock of the institution that has been promoting these things to happen, which is science.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sorry. Let me just give me one disagreement before we go. Sorry. Religion.
You will still rebuke by giving you another disagreement.
Religion.
No. Mr. T, it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Religion,
I mean, we're learning.
Religion did not give any bedrock to any scientist. Anybody, if you want, we can debate that from now to tomorrow. In fact, religion was actually dampering science from time immemorial. In fact, the reason why the man that is terms the founder of science, which is Isaac Newton, did not reveal his religious belief until death, is because he was afraid that if he reveals it, the religious people, because you've seen what religions have been doing to other people who are trying to innovate.
And you also have to understand that Newton is not the only scientist we have in the world.
He's the greatest.
What I'm saying is that
he's the greatest scientist that we have. The greatest.
Yeah. No, greatest is subjective, because it depends on what you mean by greatest, you know, because we still have scientists and intelligent people from Greece. So it depends on what you mean by greatest. Mr. T, this is getting interesting. What I'm saying here is that the bedrock we're talking about is that religion has given science the institution to research. Religion has given science the wherewithal to support scientific innovations. And this thing is a factual statement. And religious people, religion has also supported the concept of bringing in new ideas from science. And today, if you go to different religious institutions, you see what science has brought in to them. So you can still preach. That is also the technology we're talking about. You can send a message today, a religious message, and it will go viral. And also,
let me just ask you one question. I think we'll take that for tomorrow. Can you tell me one single thing that religion promotes, that science adapts, that religion says that this is religious concept that science adapts? Everything that religion is saying, science is against it. Everything.
Can I tell you one thing?
Can we have
one thing that religion promotes that science adapts is faith-based evidence. But brother, we talk about this next time. Faith-based evidence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a robust one. That was a very, very robust one, and I want to thank you guys for.
Thank you, sir.
It was very
It's good. It's very good.
Yeah, it's very good. If we had our way, we'll continue with this till probably all of us will just get tired.
We keep learning. I keep saying we keep learning. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like we said, this is everything is ongoing. you know, everything, all the discoveries are still ongoing. Yesterday it was one thing, today is a different thing, and tomorrow
New model.
all these things will continue. So,
Yeah.
and then, you know, somebody said what we need is more of curiosity. And then, you know, when you are curious, you tend to, you know, learn, and then you could be able to debunk some age-long myths. Yeah. We also need to wake up to the realities of the time, you know.
Yeah.
And somebody said, when you have God on your side, you are always right. So this is what I was able to distill from the conversation we had.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for having kept the everybody entertained. Not just entertainment, we have been able to pass across knowledge. For those who have been chiming in with their comments, I want to appreciate you guys. And I want to thank all those who kept faith with us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank all our viewers who stayed with us until the very last moment. You really made our day, and you are the reason why we continue to come your way every Sunday. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you once again. From all of us,
thank you so much.
Yeah, from all of us here, we want to say have a wonderful night rest, and we see you next Sunday. Thank you, guys, and you have a beautiful night rest. Yeah,
thank you
bye.
for having us. Thank you for having us, brother. I mean, it's been a wonderful discussion.
Exactly.
You know? Thanks.
Bye.